When I was young, I never imagined I would become an entrepreneur. In fact, I failed so many times that I lost count. I was rejected from jobs, failed exams, and heard no countless times. But one thing became clear to me. The biggest mistake people make is ignoring the core problem they face. When it comes to money, many live on autopilot, exchanging hours for a paycheck that barely covers their monthly expenses. This mindset traps people, keeping them in a cycle of survival instead of growth. I understood early on that to change my life, I had to change my thinking. How? By identifying the root problem. I believe creating wealth is more than earning money. It's about learning how to use time, our most limited resource, wisely. Too often, people spend all their time seeking temporary solutions but never stop to think, what is the real problem? When I realized I wasn't just looking for a salary but for freedom, everything began to shift. Have you ever thought about what you are truly seeking? It's not the money itself, but what it represents. Security, freedom, or even time to focus on what truly matters. Along the way, I realized something crucial. Before solving a problem, you must recognize it. I remember saying, when you know what's wrong, half the work is already done. The biggest obstacle for many is a lack of awareness about how their personal financial system really works. Are you just reacting to circumstances, or are you creating opportunities for yourself? This is the difference between surviving and thriving. Understanding this helped me break free from the time for money trap and start building something bigger.
The shift in mindset was the starting point for everything I achieved. It's not just about working more, but about working smarter. For example, instead of focusing on tasks anyone could do, I began developing skills no one could take from me, like communication and leadership. These skills became my greatest assets, something money could never buy. That's what I mean when I say time is your most precious resource. Once you understand that, every decision changes. So I leave you with this thought. Are you investing your time in the right things? Identifying the financial problem is just the beginning. True transformation happens when you decide not just to solve it, but to completely outgrow the system that traps you. And in the process, you start realizing that your life doesn't have to be defined by yesterday's limitations. Because the freedom you're looking for begins the moment you recognize that you're the one who sets the rules for your game. When I started Alibaba, I knew we weren't the strongest or the fastest. In fact, we were small and to many irrelevant. But one thing I was certain of, if we didn't find a way to be unique, we were doomed to fail. That's why I've always believed that having a competitive advantage is what separates winners from those who merely follow the flow. In the business world, it's not just about running faster, but about creating your own path. As I once said, if not now, when? If not me, who? Having a competitive advantage is like playing a game where you know the rules better than anyone else. For me, it started with a simple question. What can we offer that no one else can? The answer wasn't technology or money, because we had none. It was our vision. We wanted to create a platform that empowered small businesses to go global. While everyone focused on the big players, we bet on the small ones. That put us on a path no one else was exploring. True competitive advantage doesn't come by chance. It's built with self-awareness and determination. You need to understand your strengths and leverage them. For instance, I knew I wasn't the best at technology, but I was good at bringing people together and creating a shared vision. That was enough to turn weaknesses into opportunities. When you recognize your own value and find ways to apply it, the competition becomes irrelevant. You don't just follow trends, you create them. To develop this advantage, you must be willing to reinvent yourself. I remember when an investor told me Alibaba would never work because we were too small. My response was simple. If you want to catch the rabbit, don't change the rabbit, change yourself. This phrase sums up what I believe about success. Don't try to change what's beyond your control. Improve who you are. I've learned that flexibility and resilience are just as important as talent. Having a competitive advantage is like navigating a vast ocean. It doesn't matter how big your boat is, but rather your ability to read the winds and adjust your sails. In business and in life, it's not enough to be good. You need to be unique. The question you must ask yourself is, what makes me indispensable? Because the answer to that question will not only define your success, but also determine the impact you'll have on the world.
Looking back on my journey, I realized that what truly brought me here wasn't money or luck. It was the assets I built along the way. And when I talk about assets, I'm not just referring to material wealth, but something much more valuable: knowledge, skills, and connections. These are the assets no one can take away from you, and they are what make you unbeatable. What you build today determines your freedom tomorrow, and that truth has always guided me. Unbeatable assets start with what you learn. I wasn't the best student. I failed exams and was rejected countless times. Yet, I learned to see every rejection as a lesson. I learned English by listening to tourists, not in a classroom. Those skills opened doors I didn't even know existed. When you focus on continuous learning, you build an arsenal that you can use in any circumstance, whether in times of prosperity or crisis. But it's not just about what you know, it's also about who you know. I've always believed in the power of human connections. When I started Alibaba, we weren't technology experts, but we were a team with a shared purpose. I always say, no man is an island. Your network can make the difference between an insurmountable challenge and a unique opportunity. That's why investing in genuine relationships is as important as investing in knowledge. Another essential asset is resilience. The business world and life is full of uncertainties. The only way to survive is to build a mindset that can withstand crises. I remember when we faced our first major failure at Alibaba. We could have given up, but we knew that challenges were temporary and that our skills and purpose were permanent. Resilience allowed us to keep going, even when it seemed impossible. The question is, are you building something that can withstand the test of time? Your unbeatable assets are your true wealth because they don't rely on external circumstances. Markets can change, technologies can evolve, but what you build within yourself, knowledge, skills, connections, and resilience, will always be yours. And that is what will determine how far you can go. When I started Alibaba, all we had was a small apartment and an ambitious idea. Many said it was an impossible dream, that no one would believe in a group with no money or technology. But I never allowed myself to think small. I believed that if the internet could connect people, it could also transform the world. Thinking big isn't about daydreaming, it's about creating an impact that goes beyond yourself. If you're aiming for $10,000, you might achieve it. But if you aim for $1 million, you'll learn much more along the way. Thinking big is like building a rocket. It takes time, effort, and a clear vision of your destination. It's not just about money, it's about the legacy you want to leave behind. When you dream small, you limit your possibilities. When you think big, you open doors you didn't even know existed. This mindset led us to imagine that small businesses in China could reach customers around the world, a revolutionary idea at the time. Over the years, I've realized that thinking big requires the courage to challenge the status quo. Often, fear stops people from aiming for something greater. But as I often say, the future won't be created by those who are afraid of making mistakes. Dreaming big is the first step to facing your fears and turning them into action. When we started Singles Day, no one believed it would become the world's biggest shopping event. But we believed in the potential of something different, and it changed everything. There's also beauty in thinking big. It elevates your standards and forces you to grow. When you aim for something grand, you can't be mediocre. You need to learn more, work harder, and become more resilient. It's not just about achieving a goal, but about who you become along the way. True transformation happens when you challenge yourself to step out of your comfort zone and imagine what seems impossible. Finally, thinking big doesn't mean neglecting small steps. Every great idea begins with a simple action, but with a clear vision of what's ahead. Have you ever wondered, what can I do today to reach my goal tomorrow? Because greatness isn't a destination, it's a journey. And that journey only begins when you allow your vision to surpass the limits of what feels safe or common. When I look back, one thing stands out clearly. Passion has always been the fuel that drives success, but purpose is the engine that keeps it moving forward. Passion can make you start a journey, but only purpose ensures you continue when the road becomes rough. I remember vividly those early days of Alibaba, when we had no money, no technology, and no connections. What kept us going was the belief that we were building something that mattered, a platform that could empower small businesses and change lives. Passion is the energy that gets you excited to wake up in the morning, but it can fade during difficult times. Purpose, however, is deeper. It's the reason you persist even when everything seems to go wrong. For me,
Purpose came from knowing that our work wasn't just about profits, it was about making a difference. As I often say, you may lose your passion on hard days, but purpose will always guide you. Finding a purpose that aligns with your skills and values creates a foundation that cannot be shaken. Many people chase passion, thinking it's the ultimate key to success, but the truth is, passion without purpose can lead to burnout. Imagine a ship powered by strong winds, but without a clear direction. It moves fast, but often ends up lost. Purpose acts as your compass, ensuring your energy is directed towards something meaningful. For us, the purpose was clear, helping others succeed, and that clarity turned passion into sustainable progress. To align passion with purpose, you need to ask yourself, what am I truly good at, and how can it serve a greater cause? For example, I realized early on that my talent wasn't in coding or technology, but in bringing people together. That ability became my contribution to Alibaba's mission. Passion gave me the initial drive to start, but purpose kept me focused on the long-term vision, even during our toughest challenges. The real power lies in combining passion with purpose. When you find work that excites you and serves a meaningful cause, you become unstoppable. Every obstacle becomes a stepping stone, and every failure becomes a lesson. So the question isn't just what you're passionate about, but why you're doing it. Because when passion and purpose intersect, you're no longer just working, you're building a legacy. I've often said, the best time to start is now. Opportunities don't wait for the perfect moment, and those who hesitate often miss them entirely. When we began Alibaba, the internet in China was barely functional. It took hours to download a single image, and most people didn't even understand what e-commerce was. Yet, we didn't wait. We acted because we saw an opportunity to create something new before it became mainstream. The key to seizing opportunities is recognizing that they rarely come wrapped in perfection. Many people spend their lives waiting for the right time, when everything feels just right. But here's the truth. If you wait too long, someone else will act first. I've always believed in this principle. If not now, when? If not me, who? Starting now isn't just about speed. It's about gaining an early advantage that sets you apart from others. Opportunities often hide in unexplored niches. They're not always obvious, but they're there for those willing to look closely. For us, the niche was small businesses in China that had no access to global markets. While others focused on big corporations, we saw an untapped potential in the little players. Starting early gave us the time to build a strong foundation before the world caught on to the idea of e-commerce.
Taking action today is like planting a seed. It might not grow overnight, but it sets the stage for something bigger. The small steps you take now can create a ripple effect that transforms your future. For example, when we launched Alibaba, the initial results were modest, but every step built momentum. By starting early, we learned, adapted, and positioned ourselves as leaders when the market matured. So why wait? Every delay is a missed opportunity. The present moment is full of possibilities, but they're fleeting. The question isn't whether opportunities exist, but whether you're ready to act on them. Because the future belongs to those who dare to move before the world tells them it's time.
For me, learning has always been the cornerstone of growth. Before I became an entrepreneur, I was a teacher, and I carried that love for learning into everything I've done since. I believe that if you stop learning, you stop growing. In today's fast-paced world, the only way to stay ahead is to keep learning, adapting, and evolving. It's not a luxury, it's a necessity for anyone who wants to thrive in an ever-changing environment. Education isn't confined to classrooms or textbooks. When we started Alibaba, none of us were experts in technology or e-commerce. We learned as we went, often through trial and error. Continuous learning gave us the resilience to navigate uncertainty and the tools to innovate. Whether formal or self-taught, investing in education is one of the most powerful ways to build assets that can withstand any crisis. I often tell people that the jobs of tomorrow will require skills machines can't replicate: creativity, emotional intelligence, and problem solving. These are the qualities that make us uniquely human. During my travels, I've met countless young people eager to learn but unsure of what to focus on. My advice is simple. Learn what machines cannot do. The future belongs to those who master the skills that technology can't replace. Learning isn't just about gaining knowledge, it's about applying it. For example, when I was younger, I taught myself English by talking to tourists in my hometown. That skill didn't just open doors, it gave me the confidence to communicate on a global scale. The ability to learn and adapt is an asset that compounds over time, creating opportunities you can't foresee. So how are you investing in your own growth? The world is moving fast, and the only way to keep up is to keep learning, because in a world that never stops changing, staying still is the same as falling behind. Failure has been my greatest teacher. From being rejected by 30 jobs to being turned down by investors, I've faced more setbacks than I can count. But instead of seeing failure as the end, I've always viewed it as an opportunity to learn and grow. Failure is part of the process, I often say, and it's these moments that have shaped my character and my success. Rejections, whether from universities or investors, taught me resilience. When I was the only candidate not hired by KFC out of 24 applicants, I didn't let it break me. Instead, I asked myself, what can I learn from this? That mindset helped me build Alibaba despite constant obstacles. Every failure became a stepping stone, not a roadblock, and that's the key to turning setbacks into progress. Failure forces you to adapt, innovate, and improve. I remember when Alibaba struggled to gain traction in its early days. Investors laughed at the idea of e-commerce in China, but each rejection pushed us to refine our strategy, improve our offerings, and prove them wrong. Without those early failures, we wouldn't have built the resilience that ultimately led to our success. The truth is, failure teaches you more than success ever will. It shows you your weaknesses and pushes you to address them. When we launched Singles Day, many doubted it would work. But we took the risk, learned from the challenges, and turned it into the world's largest shopping event. Every setback holds a lesson if you're willing to look for it. So, the next time you face failure, ask yourself, what is this trying to teach me? Because the real mistake isn't failing, it's giving up before you discover the lesson hidden within. Why? One of the greatest lessons I've learned is that no one succeeds alone. Building connections is not just a strategy, it's a necessity. When I started Alibaba, we didn't have money, technology, or even a solid business model. What we had were relationships, people who believed in our vision and worked tirelessly to make it a reality. As I often say, no man is an island. Success is a team effort, and the strength of your network can determine the height of your achievements. The most valuable connections are those built on authenticity and trust. During Alibaba's early days, I focused on creating genuine relationships with my team and partners. It wasn't just about making deals. It was about understanding their needs and aligning them with our shared goals. These connections became the foundation of Alibaba's culture, where collaboration and mutual respect drove our growth. Building strong connections requires a mindset of giving before asking. I always tell young entrepreneurs, focus on how you can help others before thinking about what they can do for you. When you invest in people selflessly, the returns often exceed your expectations. It's not about keeping score, it's about creating a community of support and shared success. Human connections also provide strength in difficult times. I remember when Alibaba faced its toughest challenges, whether financial setbacks or market skepticism, it was the people around me who kept me grounded. Relationships built on trust and shared vision became our greatest asset, helping us overcome obstacles that seemed insurmountable. So, are you nurturing the right connections in your life? Building a strong network isn't just about expanding your contacts, it's about deepening your relationships. In the end, the people you surround yourself with will either lift you higher or hold you back. The choice is yours. True wealth isn't built overnight. It's a long game that requires patience, vision, and resilience. When I founded Alibaba, I knew that success wouldn't come quickly. We were thinking about the next 10, 20, even 50 years. Real wealth is built in the long term, I've often said. Short-term wins can be tempting, but they rarely lead to lasting success. Thinking long-term means resisting the urge to chase instant gratification. Many people make the mistake of focusing solely on immediate results. But when you focus only on today, you lose sight of tomorrow's potential. At Alibaba, we made decisions that sometimes seemed illogical at the moment, but they aligned with our broader vision. That patience paid off, helping us create a sustainable and impactful business. The long-term approach also allows you to weather challenges without losing focus. I remember the early days when Alibaba was struggling to stay afloat. We could have made short-term sacrifices to please investors, but we stuck to our principles. That decision to stay true to our vision built trust and set the foundation for long-term growth. Staying focused on the future requires a clear sense of purpose. You need to ask yourself, what am I building and why does it matter? Without a strong sense of direction, it's easy to get distracted or discouraged. For me, the goal was never just to build a company. It was to create something that could make a lasting difference in the world. So are your actions today aligned with the future you want? True success requires the discipline to think ahead, even when it's uncomfortable, because the rewards of long-term focus far outweigh the fleeting satisfaction of short-term gains. Gratitude has always been a cornerstone of my life and leadership. In the fast-paced world of business, it's easy to focus on what you lack rather than appreciating what you have. But I've learned that celebrating small victories attracts even greater abundance. Gratitude is not just an emotion, it's a mindset that shifts how you approach life and work. In the early days of Alibaba, we faced countless challenges. Yet every milestone, no matter how small, was a cause for celebration. Whether it was signing our first client or launching a new feature, we took the time to acknowledge the progress. These moments of gratitude kept our team motivated and reminded us of how far we'd come, even when the road ahead seemed daunting. Gratitude also fosters resilience. When you focus on what's going well, it becomes easier to navigate difficulties. I remember during a particularly tough period at Alibaba, we faced harsh criticism and financial struggles. Instead of dwelling on the negatives, we focused on the opportunities we still had. That perspective didn't just lift our spirits, it fueled our determination to move forward. Being grateful doesn't mean settling for less. It means recognizing the value of every step in your journey. It's about understanding that even the challenges you face contribute to your growth. Gratitude helps you see the bigger picture, making you more resilient and open to opportunities. So take a moment today to reflect on what you're grateful for. Because when you practice gratitude, you don't just change your perspective, you change your life. And that change can create a ripple effect that inspires others to do the same. Fear is one of the biggest barriers to success, but I've learned that the best way to overcome it is through action. Fear often paralyzes us, keeping us from seizing opportunities or pursuing our dreams. But as I like to say, action dissolves fear. The moment you take that first step, no matter how small, fear begins to lose its grip. I faced many fears throughout my journey. Starting Alibaba was one of them. We were stepping into the unknown with no guarantees of success. But instead of letting fear hold us back, we decided to move forward anyway. Each action, no matter how uncertain, built momentum and confidence. Fear only grows in the absence of movement. When you act, it diminishes. Taking action doesn't mean eliminating fear entirely. It means not letting it control you. For example, when Alibaba entered the e-commerce market, we knew the risks were high. Competitors were stronger, and the internet was still a new concept in China. But we believed in our vision and took small, calculated steps to bring it to life. Each step reduced the fear of failure and brought us closer to success. Fear can also be a teacher if you're willing to face it. It reveals areas where you need to grow and pushes you to step out of your comfort zone. When I look back, every significant achievement came from moments when I chose courage over comfort. Those moments of action turned fear into a stepping stone rather than a barrier. So what fear is holding you back? The only way to conquer it is to act. Take a small step today, even if it feels uncomfortable. Because every action you take brings you closer to your goals and farther from the fear that once held you back.
Jack Ma, the visionary co-founder of Alibaba, has a way of speaking that resonates with millions, cutting through the noise to deliver life-changing insights. His journey from being rejected 30 times for jobs to building one of the world's largest companies is nothing short of extraordinary. In a recent talk, Jack Ma shared 12 transformative principles for reshaping your life in 2025, touching on issues like financial independence, failure, and the courage to act despite fear. These lessons aren't just motivational, they're actionable steps that anyone can follow to create lasting success. One of the most powerful messages Jack Ma shared was the importance of identifying financial problems at their core. He challenged the conventional notion of exchanging time for money, describing it as a trap that limits freedom and growth. Creating wealth begins when you recognize that time is your most limited resource, Jack Ma emphasized. The first step is awareness, understanding where you're stuck and what changes need to happen. Without this clarity, it's impossible to move forward. Jack Ma's perspective on building a competitive advantage also struck a chord with audiences. He highlighted how true success comes not from following the crowd, but from creating systems and advantages that make competition irrelevant. If you want to catch the rabbit, don't change the rabbit, change yourself, he said, underscoring the value of self-awareness and adaptability. For Jack Ma, success isn't about being the best at everything, but about leveraging your unique strengths to carve a path no one else can take. Another crucial principle was Jack Ma's belief in building assets that are resilient and immune to external circumstances. These are not just financial assets, but skills, knowledge, and relationships, things that no one can take away from you. What you build today determines your freedom tomorrow, Jack Ma declared. He shared how his own focus on developing communication skills and leadership abilities created the foundation for Alibaba's success. These are the types of investments that pay dividends regardless of market conditions. Jack Ma's ability to transform failure into a learning opportunity was perhaps one of the most relatable aspects of his talk. Having been rejected by investors, universities, and even KFC, Jack Ma turned every setback into a stepping stone. Failure is part of the process, he explained. For Jack Ma, failure is not the end, but a powerful teacher that reveals weaknesses and forces growth. This mindset, he insisted, is what separates ordinary individuals from visionaries. One of the most compelling stories Jack Ma shared was about the courage to act despite fear. Fear, he said, is a natural part of life, but it doesn't have to define you. Action dissolves fear, Jack Ma stated. He shared how taking small, deliberate steps, especially during Alibaba's uncertain early days, helped him and his team build momentum and confidence. Fear only grows in the absence of action, but each step forward weakens its grip. Jack Ma also emphasized the importance of long-term thinking in achieving meaningful success. In a world obsessed with quick wins, he argued that true wealth comes from patience and focus. Alibaba's journey was never about short-term gains. It was about creating something sustainable and impactful over decades. Real wealth is built in the long term, he said, encouraging the audience to resist the lure of instant gratification and focus instead on building a legacy. Equally inspiring was Jack Ma's perspective on gratitude. In the fast-paced world of business and self-improvement, he reminded us to celebrate small victories and appreciate progress, no matter how modest. Gratitude, he explained, is more than a feel-good practice. It's a way to shift your mindset, attract abundance, and maintain resilience during tough times. When you're grateful, even challenges become opportunities, Jack Ma shared. The core of Jack Ma's message is that success requires a balance of mindset and action. It's not enough to dream big. You must also take deliberate steps toward those dreams. He urged the audience to recognize the opportunities in the present moment, warning against the trap of waiting for the perfect time. If not now, when? If not me, who? Jack Ma asked, challenging everyone to take the first step today, no matter how small. Jack Ma's philosophy on building a competitive edge was deeply practical. It starts with knowing yourself, your strengths, weaknesses, and unique talents, and using that knowledge to create a strategy that aligns with your goals. For Jack Ma, the key isn't to outdo others, but to make the competition irrelevant by carving your own path. This approach, he argued, not only leads to success, but also fosters innovation and creativity. Ultimately, Jack Ma's principles are not just about financial success. They're about creating a fulfilling, purpose-driven life. Whether it's through embracing failure, practicing gratitude, or thinking long-term. His advice encourages us to look beyond immediate challenges and focus on the bigger picture. These lessons, rooted in his personal experiences, offer a blueprint for anyone seeking to transform their mindset and unlock their full potential. As we step into 2025, Jack Ma's words serve as both inspiration and a call to action. Are you ready to embrace these principles, challenge your limits, and create a life of freedom, impact, and purpose? The opportunity is here, but the choice is yours. Now that you've learned the 12 rules to transform your life in 2025, the real question is, will you take action? Each principle Jack Ma shared is a stepping stone to a better future, but they require commitment and courage to apply. What is stopping you from identifying your financial challenges, leveraging your unique strengths, and creating assets that no one can take away? Success isn't about quick wins. It's about building something that lasts. As Jack Ma said, true wealth comes from thinking long-term, embracing continuous learning, and turning every failure into a lesson. The journey may not be easy, but every small step you take brings you closer to a life of purpose, impact, and fulfillment. What inspired you the most in Jack Ma's message? Was it the call to think big, the reminder to act now, or the idea of using gratitude to unlock abundance? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and let us know which rule resonated with you. Your insights might just inspire someone else to take their first step toward transformation. If this content motivated you, don't let it slip away. Save this video, rewatch it whenever you need a boost, and share it with others who could use some inspiration. Subscribe to the channel now. You might not find it again if you leave without subscribing. And make sure to hit the notification bell to stay updated with more life-changing insights. Finally, don't miss our next video, How to Build a Business That Changes Lives, Jack Ma. It's packed with strategies to take your vision to the next level. Your journey is just beginning, and we'll be here to guide you every step of the way.